190 centimeters tall, 95 kilos more or less, so I'm a very big guy. It's about 6'3", 210 pounds. And I could easily fit two of me in here. There we go. So. So it's designed for having somebody, say 2 meters long, with a thick sleeping mat and still be able to fit in here. At 190 you're not going to mush anything at all. There's no chance of that. You can even have like a little cot in here. And we made it this big for several different reasons. One, you have an awesome solo tent that you could easily stay in for months at a time without any issue, because the size would make it comfortable enough. So you have a half insert in here, and it's going to be just a palace. You have a full insert, and you've got yourself a very comfortable two-man tent that still weighs under a kilo with a full inner, and it'll weigh about 600 grams complete with the half insert when that's finished. But you also get a very big, comfortable mountain tent. It also has catering cuts, but they're not as deep as you see it on a lot of tents, and that's because we didn't really feel the difference when we tested it in the higher winds. We didn't see like a massive difference between a slight catering cut and a massive catering cut. I mean, there was of course a difference, but the problem with the massive catering cut is that you lose so much room on the inside. And so it kind of defeats the purpose of having a large tent when you're still mushing on the inner, because it's such a deep cut in it. So it's kind of finding that balance between a perfectly cut tent that gives you enough catering cut to shed some of that wind, but not so much that you lose the whole purpose of having a large tent. So I'll go ahead and put the inner tent, one of the inner tents. Now I'm using, for this test, I'm using the Serenity bug net from 6 Moon Designs. It's a good, cheap inner tent that fits quite nicely. And basically any inner tent's going to work in this. But I'll just use the Serenity because it's a good inner tent that'll do what it needs you to do. So there you have it. There's with the 6 Moon Designs Serenity bug net in there. There are different ways you can set up the inner tent. In this mode that I have it now, when I tear down the tent, the inner is going to follow with it. So it would be like your standard Nordic tent where you pitch everything together. And that's because it has these little hooks. And even our inner tent, when it's done, will be built for that kind of setup where you just set up the outer and the inner goes up with it. To give you an idea of how big this is, this half inner here isn't even close to taking up the full half of the tent. You can see that there's just a massive amount of room on it, and that's because, as I've stated, this inner is not built for this tent, but it works just fine in the tent, and I fit just fine in there. Now, that's the inner. There's still more than half the tent left over if you're going to be 2 people, or you and your doggy and all your gear. And if you're 2 people on this version where you can even have the awning, then the size is just ridiculous. So there you have the awning, and I'll show that a little bit more from the side here, but this just gives you a really massive extra area in your tent that if it's raining a lot, you can easily just sit here, not specifically here, but under the awning itself and not worry about getting rained on. Also an excellent feature if you don't want to have double zippers but you want to be able to have 2 people with maximum comfort. Here you could easily have 2 people and all the gear completely protected from the elements. So I'll go ahead and go through this tent. It's the exact same tent as the standard edition, exact same size. It's 2 meters wide, 270 I guess long, 150 high. It can vary of course, but that's more or less the exact where it's supposed to be. 300 grams without the guidelines. I think it's like 370 grams without the guidelines, 350 with these Lawson blue guidelines. It's got 16 tie outs on the outside. All of them are 2.92 DCF woven, bonded, extra strengthened. We use this really thick stitching line. It's double stitched. Every single piece of this is double stitched. It's 0.51 ounce Dyneema. Now that's for the gram counter. That's going to give you that minimal weight, but still it's going to hold quite a few years, but it's not going to be as durable as your 0.8 ounce or your 1 ounce Dyneema. And we'll offer from the beginning the 0.8 ounce olive green, which will raise the total weight to about 400 grams with the guidelines, but it's about twice the Dyneema tensile strength. So it's a big difference in durability, but with minimal weight. So if you want the olive green, that'll of course be a little bit more expensive. Jesus. So it'll be a little bit more expensive, but you get, you know, the olive green, a little bit more durable tent for the price. My pooch. You can see in this edition, like the standard edition, they're massive. The inner tent is easily put in and out. So to give an idea of how big that awning is, yeah, I mean, I can almost sit under the awning by itself. And of course, you can just close that down if it's raining hard. You've got yourself an extremely comfortable 1 or 2 man tent. How on earth am I supposed to show how big or small that is? But in any case, there you have the inner, God, that's a horrible camera angle. Yeah, so there you have just a quick pack down of the inner and outer. Now again, this inner is not specifically designed for this tent. This is the Six Moon Designs Serenity bug net, but it works. And you kind of get an idea of the pack size. It's actually a very small tent. Small pack size considering how big the tent is. Now that's with the inner pack down, and when you throw it up, everything's going to stay in place just like your standard Nordic style two wall tents. Now this is just the outer only. So I mean, you can see it's a very small package. In fact, pack size, it's smaller. We're about the same size as you know, a 1 liter bottle. You know, you can get it pretty mushed down actually, and this is like a real lazy kind of squishing, and then this is with the inner. And I've actually got them both in a little camera bag here when I'm out filming. So yeah, I mean, they're real small pack volume. I have it the Sarek Gear X, or the Sarek Gear Mid. That's it, just the Mid.